All right, guys. So our next topic is going to move us into the Marvel Cinematic Universe for all you MCU fans. Kevin Feige here was recently questioned about the WandaVision. WandaVision, fantastic. Finale just happened last week. It was all good. Disappointed we don't have anything to watch this week. I still need to go catch up and watch the behind the well, not behind the scenes, but the making of. So I hope that's on par with more of the season one making of Mandalorian. The making of season two of Mandalorian was just like a quick hour, like 45-minute behind the scenes thing, which was good. I like watching that stuff. I love watching that stuff. I like movies. I like watching how they're made and all that fun stuff. So I need to go back and watch that. But Kevin Feige was just recently asked about WandaVision and like the potential of a season two, and he had some interesting comments that I just wanted to kind of go over because it just shed some light about like why Kevin Feige has been so successful and why the MCU has been so successful and like how Kevin Feige has like propelled it to greatness in all reality. And they're just kind of like offhand comments, but they speak a lot of volumes. Because he was questioned about, is WandaVision going to have a season two and whatever, and he said, "We're developing all of the shows the way they develop their movies. In other words, when we start a movie, we hope there's a part two, we hope there's a part three, but we aren't factoring that into part one. We're trying to make something that hooks people enough and that people enjoy and they want to revisit enough that they want to see the story continue. So that is the way we're proceeding on television as well." And with that, it's just like it reminds me of Universal when they announced the Dark Universe and all that, and they're like, "We're gonna make the Mummy," and they took the big press photo with who was it all? They had Johnny Depp and then like Tom Cruise and Benicio del Toro, whoever was all there. All these people they hadn't lined up to be in this dark universe, right? They were kicking it off with the Mummy. They were gonna have the Bride of Frankenstein and like all this crazy stuff. The whole thing's canned now. They put the universe before the movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Kevin Feige doesn't do that. Kevin Feige tries to make a good movie. And, like, that's why it works. Like, the universe was always something he wanted to do, the MCU. But if it wouldn't have worked, and if Iron Man didn't work, and then, like, if Captain America and Thor didn't work, then we wouldn't have it. They focused on making those movies work. And it's kind of like really what DC kind of struggled with. Like, in some ways. Like, you could argue, like, we talked about it earlier. Back in 2014, 2015, 2016, whatever, they announced, like, 10 movies. 4 of them have been made. The rest have been completely scrapped, like, and they were already they all got, like, late releases. It's a thing. It's a thing. And then he goes on to say, one more thing, to the actual WandaVision Season 2 question. He says, "I've been at Marvel for too long to say a definite no or yes to anything in regards to your question about another season of WandaVision, but some of the shows that we're about to start filming, we are keeping in mind a structure that would lead into a season 2 and a season 3 in a more direct way than, say, a show like WandaVision, which clearly goes into a feature," which, again, we've known that it's going to be leading into Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. That was announced back at the Comic-Con when they announced Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness. They pulled Elizabeth Olsen out on stage with Benedict Cumberbatch and announced that Scarlet Witch is going to be a part of it. And now Scarlet Witch is actually literally a part of it. Like, because she didn't get the moniker Scarlet Witch until the finale of WandaVision. So they kind of dropped that little spoiler alert back then, if you really think about it. And but it is new. That's part of the fun, exciting, adrenaline boosting creativity that we're able to do thanks to Disney Plus, and really to figure out new ways of storytelling. Perhaps someday we'll chart out 5 seasons of a show, but really we're focusing on delivering the best seasons we can do one at a time so far. And again, guys, I want to get your thoughts on this too, Rick and John, because in my mind, like I said, I think it's just like some kind of offhand, just like comments, but it really speaks volume as to the success that Kevin Feige and the MCU has had. Like I said, they focus on what they're doing now.
That makes
That's it.
perfect sense. I mean, like with the Universal Monster thing or whatever you were talking about, you can't put the idea before the actual stories or anything, because then you're just kind of setting it up for disappointment, especially if the movies are bad or whatever. But if you kind of just take it one step at a time and just stay in the present and not think about the future too much, I think it works a lot better, and it looks like it's worked that way for Marvel at least.
Yeah, because that's the thing too with This is one thing that they've also done very well, which lends into that in some ways. You can pick up like the MCU is this big overarching story, right? Like there's 10 years, 20 plus films. They're all connected. But you can pick up your very first movie could be the 10th film and you will be able to watch the movie and enjoy it.
Oh yeah, for
You're,
sure. That's how I am. I mean,
yeah.
obviously I'm not as into the like comic movies as you guys are, or as knowledgeable, I should say at least, but I can still enjoy them. And just, I watched Endgame a couple weeks back, and I don't really remember like some of like Age of Ultron, that sort of stuff, but it was still good. Or Infinity War, like I've watched Infinity War in parts, so it wasn't really fluent to me, but watching Endgame, I was like, this is good, so
Yeah, and you can follow along with it. Like you might not get all the references and all that
I knew what
stuff.
was going on though.
But yeah,
Like
you know exactly what's going on. Like you get it. It's they don't like
they make it easy to understand.
yeah, they don't make it a prerequisite to watch the 10 other movies behind it.
Yeah.
It's they make each movie, they try to make it a good movie, and then hopefully if you liked, and if Endgame was your first movie that you watched and you liked it, well now you can go back and watch all the other ones cuz like they hooked you in. You know what I mean? That's just one of like again, that's just one of the great things that Kevin Feige and Marvel has done with the MCU, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this, John? You got anything you want to add?
I love Kevin Feige.
Yeah,
That
Ben
dude,
Affleck
like,
said he's the best. So
that dude's a godsend. Like, I don't know. I don't know who tapped him to work at Marvel and work on the first Iron Man, but whoever did is almost as much a genius because that was, I mean, without him there, maybe not. Maybe there's maybe Marvel had something in the works, but I just it just seems like from all accounts that he is the one. He's the engine that makes this Marvel machine work so efficiently and so well. And I wish DC had somebody like that. I think there's a couple factors at play. I think definitely Feige being so good at his job and what he does is part of it. But I think the other part of it is he's allowed to do that. When you look at a situation like DC, who we constantly, or at least I constantly gripe about and complain about, I think you see that lack of trust or that lack of control that's handed over to those that are in charge. You constantly hear about, things being changed. I mean, obviously, the biggest example we're coming up with the release of Zack Snyder's Justice League, but the studio interference with the way Justice League played out, not allowing Zack's vision to actually sink or swim on its own. Just and you saw how well it played out. It didn't play out well at all. Like, I mean, that movie did terrible considering that's the first major big budget version of Justice League that we've ever gotten. Yet Kevin Feige is able to bring Marvel's, C-level, B-level at best characters and turn them into the biggest names in cinema of all time. I mean, it's just it's astounding that when you allow somebody that has a good creative vision to execute it, what can happen. And even I'd even go so far as to say, while Justice League, we just talked about in the last segment how Batman versus Superman was the theatrical cut wasn't even really Zack's vision for the movie, and you can tell because it plays terribly. It doesn't make sense. The ultimate cut is a better movie because it does place, make more sense. And for as much as I don't like Batman, and I talked about earlier why I don't like Batman in that movie. I will admit that the movie is a good movie when you see the vision of the director and his story being told in one complete package the way you do in the ultimate cut. And I hope that I hope and anticipate that that's the same thing that's going to happen with the Justice League cut that comes out this week. If you allow the creator to tell their story and don't shoehorn this, that, and the other thing in, it becomes and I think obviously Kevin Feige has managed to do what needs. it's like he plants seeds in that can grow in future films, but they don't have to. So things happen like they can turn into something later on, but they don't have to. I mean, we got one of the greatest scenes in my opinion, all of cinematic history with Cap wielding Thor's hammer in Endgame. That was just a short, brief scene that happened, 15 movies earlier in Age of Ultron when they're having this little party at the Avengers mansion, and they're doing this jokey kind of who can lift Thor's hammer, and nobody can move it except for Cap. You see it just twitch, maybe, or maybe your eyes played a trick on you, but it seems like it just twitched, and it pays off in such a wonderful way later on. And to have somebody that has the vision to weave all those narrative points together is just, it's a blessing. And clearly he knows what he's doing and focusing and keeping his focus, on the immediate, but also with an eye towards what they can do in the future, not what they are doing, but what they can do.
Oh yeah, dude. I wish DC could do something like get somebody in there because like Walter Amada would like he's kind of new on the scene, so like maybe Walter Amada can be that for DC. I don't know. It's too early to tell, I think, at this point, and they're definitely going in a different direction. Like they're focusing, which is good. They're focusing on making good movies. Like they're not constraining themselves to a connected universe. They're gonna make good movies, and that's all I can really ask.
And it definitely seems from that big article that we talked about, months ago that he put out, it definitely seems like he has a vision. He has a clear idea of how he wants it to work and what he wants to happen. So maybe that, like you said, maybe he is that guy for DC.
I hope so, because a lot of people I know when they brought Jeff Johns in a while back, and like he's not in the role anymore, but he was like the creator. They moved him to like the creative director of like
Chief
DC movies.
CCO, Chief Creative Officer.
Yeah, and they were gonna have him focus on like DC movies, but that doesn't seem to have panned out. But he still is like he and Patty Jenkins were the writers of the most recent Wonder Woman 84. Both of them were credited for the screenplay and that, so he still has his hand in a few baskets. I still contend, if any basket that he's gonna have his hands in, it should be the Green Lantern one, but whatever. I think too with to your point with the Batman thing, you know what, I've always said this. I think one of the biggest like kind of misnomers that kind of happened with the DC universe and the BVS being the second film out of the gate is that Zack introduced this Batman and Ben Affleck's Batman in a way that was like he's been being Batman for 20 years and he's like this broken man. And I think it would have been much better if they would have made a Batman movie and we knew Batman, like this Batman, before he's going up against Superman. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? I think that was the biggest, because I feel like it was a big, maybe it was Zack, maybe Zack wanted to do BVS, like, and he didn't want to do Man of Steel 2, like, or a Batman movie or whatever. Like, who knows? No one really knows. But like, it almost feels like they were rushing to get to their connected universe because they went from a solo Superman movie where he's not even Superman until the end of the movie, and now there's Batman. He's been Batman for 20 years and he's just broken and like, you know, it's like that. But now we can do Justice League once we get this done. So we should totally do. This is what it felt like.
It was not just that too. It was like, oh yeah, by the way, there's also Wonder Woman in this movie, and hey, we're gonna give you snippets of Cyborg, Flash, and Aquaman too, because we can't let something develop naturally. We have to. Yeah. We have mismanaged our characters so bad over the past few years that Marvel is kicking our butts right now. So in order to try and cash in, we're going to just throw all our chips on the table and roll the crap dice once. And oh wait, look, we crapped out, and so now we're screwed for the next 10 years. It's like,
it's a good way to put it.
And I've always hated the way they introduced Aquaman, Flash, and Cyborg. With Wonder Woman, like just like clicking on like Lex Luthor had made all the logos. Yeah, it's like, dude, it's so stupid. Like
that is really
like the fact that like Lex had these files and made like who made the logo?
Who did he have like a graphic designer?
Yeah, that's what it is. Like you're making like the Flash has it. We found out in the CW crossover thing with Ezra Miller's Flash that Ezra Miller's Flash wasn't even called the Flash yet. But he had his logo in BVS.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's a little bit inconsistent. It was really stupid. And the whole the funniest one though was Jason Momoa's Aquaman. It's just a video of him in the water, just like with the trident, and then he just, boo, just that's it. It's like,
The drone,
why was
like the,
why did that need to be there? It was like James Cameron going down there looking for the Titanic, and then like boom, there's a little fish man. Wow, it was just It was the stupidest way to introduce it. That was like your gripe about them introducing the engineer in freaking Marvel or in the WandaVision. It was the same way. Like it was just like, let's just have them in there just to be in there, just to there. They're there. It's like
the lamest way possible to introduce a character.
It's like we want to have Aquaman in here, so why don't we just have a quick like YouTube video of a guy in the ocean just going real fast?
Right.
That's so stupid.
It really is.
Nevertheless, Kevin Feige is indeed a mastermind. I'm really excited to see what he does post Marvel. Like, if I'm sure someday down the future, like, because he's making that Star Wars movie.
Tongue. Just bite your tongue. Don't even.
Dude, would you take? If you were offered right now? Because Marvel's like, it's set up, it's going good. If you could have Kevin Feige move over to Warner Brothers and work his magic for DC, would you like do that?
I'll tell you,
I kind of would. I really do think I
wouldn't,
would.
and I wouldn't, because if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like, I don't want to F with the Marvel universe at all. We just got done with WandaVision, which was their first foray into television, and it was, in my opinion, spectacular. Like, and we got Falcon and Winter Soldier coming up, and like, it ain't broke. Leave that stuff alone. Just let them do their thing. Like DC, there's lots of creative people out there in the world. Go find somebody, figure it out. But like, I know what you're saying. I'm tempted to say yes, but in my heart, I'm like, no. I would take another 10 years of the success of Marvel, and rather than, you know, roll the dice on possibly getting DC to get their act together, because I don't think it's just DC. I think it's Warner Brothers too. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm just excited to see what he does later, like post. Kind of like I've said the same thing about the Russos. Like, they made some of the best Marvel movies possible, but their foray into like things outside of the MCU haven't really panned out that well. Like, none of their like the 21 Bridges movie, the Extraction movie,
that was a good movie, though.
Like, well, they haven't like been very well received. Like, they haven't been unanimously loved. Like,
I guess I need to go look at reviews, but I really like 21 Bridges. Like, it was a good flick.
It didn't get good. That's review wise, and like in profitability wise, they were nowhere near as successful as their Marvel movies were. You know, and as far as critics go, and obviously box office, but like that, I mean, box office aside, and like any little movie isn't gonna make as much as a Marvel movie. That goes without saying. But it's the same situation. Like, I'd like to see. That's why I'm excited that Kevin Feige's doing the Star Wars movie. I want to see him flex his creative muscles outside of Marvel, just to see, like, is he just a one-trick pony? Like, is it just like he just is a Marvel fanboy and he's just
It'd be almost
amazing at it
outside of Marvel now?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm excited to see that as his career goes on, because like, I don't think he's a one-trick pony. That's why I can't wait to see him do other things and bring that greatness to other things, like Star Wars. Very excited for what him and
that's going to be interesting.
That's what I'm saying. And then like Taika Waititi's doing Star Wars, and like I feel the same way about Taika Waititi as I do about like Kevin Feige. Like, I'll watch anything like Taika Waititi does. So like, I can't wait to see him make like a big budget Star Wars movie. So yeah, Marvel and Disney, they got some good people. They got some good creative team behind them for sure. But the question is, guys, what do you think about all this? Do you think you kind of agree with us where we're like, Kevin Feige is the literal god? Like, he is the literal god? Like, I know, like, I don't know anybody else. No, it's clear. Like, Ben Affleck even said himself that Kevin Feige is like literally the greatest producer to have ever lived. And like, at this point in time, I think it's no contest. Like, as far as movie producers goes, he's the GOAT so far. Like, maybe not the GOAT, but if he keeps this up for another 10 years, he will absolutely be the GOAT. But whatever you think, let us know down in the comment section below.